Hey and welcome to this video. If it's your first time here, my name is Lachlan Rowson. I'm Raf, and we are Australia's #1 health and fitness podcast, The Mind Muscle Project. So, if you're here, what you can expect from us in the future is...
Well, we interview the biggest names in fitness. On Mondays, we've had Matt Fraser, Brent Fikowski, Pat Vellner, pretty much all the boys.
On Wednesdays, we talk about our athletic experience in our mid to early 20s. We've been to regionals multiple times. We talk about the most current and the most exciting new stuff in our industry.
And on Fridays, on the podcast, we delve into fitness business. So we've started 3 gyms ourselves, and we talk about where we want to go with them, how we're doing it, and how to succeed in the fitness industry.
So if you want to see more from us in the future, more exciting content, interviews, we've got heaps of stuff. You can go to the links below. We've got our website. We've got the top 10 most downloaded podcasts of all time. You guys will really enjoy those. And we've got plenty more content on our Instagram, so go there as well. And if you like videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel down below.
So on Saturday, we were going over to Adam's house for a little get-together, and we were picking up some chicken nuggets. And I'm like, Mike, can you get the chicken nuggets? Because, you know, we're running late with the baby or whatever. Or I was like, do you want to, or should we pick them up? And Mike's like, how did you answer it?
I said, y'all go ahead.
Y'all go ahead.
And Brandy's like, that doesn't answer the question. And I finally was like, don't get them. No, you go get them. We are not getting them. We are not. Anyways, yes.
I didn't even answer.
It was a fucking disaster. Yeah, you were talking about.
Same thing with spikeball, though.
You were talking about that show earlier in Australia, the golf show that you watched on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it reminded me how fucking crazy it is down there. We went camping with Matt and Christina in like north of Sydney the last time I was there.
Mossman?
Nah.
I don't know. It was like a 30-minute drive, and then we like paid this guy to like drive us across this little lake, and then we like camped out like on this little island.
Oh, I think I know where you were. You probably went to Palm Beach, and then you probably got a boat across to like Central Coast.
That sounds
somewhere.
right.
Yeah.
But in one day, we saw like a big-ass lizard. I would call it like a park dragon.
Goanna.
Blue tongue?
Blue tongue lizard?
Yeah, it was huge. It was like 6 feet long.
Probably a goanna.
Okay.
Or what are those other things called that bite you, and they got the...
Crocodile.
I don't know. That was nuts. We get to the island. There's like wild turkey running around everywhere.
Yeah.
There's wallaby.
Turkey. Yeah.
Ducks.
Yeah.
I think you had ducks too.
Yeah.
And then we saw a stingray
Fuck.
swimming through the water. We ran away.
Yeah.
And then we saw an octopus come up to the shore.
No way.
I swear, all in one day. I was like, what is this?
No. I've
like,
never had that.
Are we in a zoo?
I've never had that happen.
Mike, you just named all things that are in the U.S. I mean,
Yeah,
but
but
lizard.
where in...
Like, oh, look at the stingray.
Where...
No, wallaby.
Where else on earth could
Ducks.
you see all those in like one like small perimeter in one day?
I'm in the Atlanta Zoo. We could drive down there.
Hey. Yeah, it was wild. It was a good time.
Yeah, the zoos in Australia are like not that exciting because you can get a lot of that stuff in the wild.
Right.
Yeah. But I suppose all the animals that you get in the zoo are ones that you can't get in Australia.
Yeah.
You can go and get tons of like crazy animals in the wild.
Yeah.
Like kangaroos and stuff. But you guys have like, what are those things we saw this morning running around? Squirrels?
Squirrels, like they're small and long, like that.
Yeah.
They got the big bushy tail.
Like a nice looking rat.
Squirrel, yeah.
Y'all don't have squirrels?
No.
Nah.
Oh, they're
No.
like everywhere here.
Have you guys
They're
seen
like the rodents.
Are they a pest?
They are in my house because they fucking climb up in our bird feeder and eat all the bird food.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely eat stuff, but
The-
they're not a pest.
The first time we saw it, I was like, oh, that's cute. And then next time, the dude's like upside down just throwing food out. I was like, hey, you little asshole, get out of there.
Yeah, right.
Man, it drove me nuts.
Chipmunks yet?
Do they go? No.
They're
No.
I mean, they're even smaller than squirrels, but those things.
They look the same?
They're like a tan, like reddish color.
Oh, do they sit up? They're the ones like sit like they sit
they'll
tall.
sit up a little bit. I mean, not probably what you're thinking, but
Not like a meerkat
No.
or a prairie
Yeah.
dog or something. Was that what it is?
They'll dig underneath, and so like have all these. We just redid our backyard, and already there's like all these little holes in our backyard from where they like dig down. I don't know what they do, like
Right.
put acorns or something down in the ground, and then like come back out on another side, and so
Brandon
cool.
shoots him with BB guns.
Yeah, for fun.
You can do that.
No,
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
don't. I don't actually do that.
He's just kidding.
Mike's just a trash talker. Like
That I would 100% do that. If I got an opportunity to get a BB gun, shoot them, that'd be so much fun. Probably shouldn't put that one in the recording. All right, let's
You
we'll,
monster.
We'll get into it. Mike,
Yeah.
how's it going being a coach here? Last time we spoke, last time you were on the show, you were moving. I think you were in transition.
I just started, yeah.
Yeah, you finished up as a host on Shrugged,
Yep.
and well, we actually have half the Shrugged team here.
Yeah.
We've got ex-host and ex-cameraman behind the lens, Chris. And so how, well, firstly,
I
catch
think
us
he
up
prefers
on
media producer.
production
Engineer.
manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. creative director.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
creative production director.
Yeah.
Director of creative production. So what's it like being a coach now? How's that transition been? Because you just started, so I'm curious, like, very different podcast host versus online.
Yeah, last
coach.
year you asked me, what's it like coaching at Training Think Tank? I was like, I don't know. I just started. I'm very happy and fulfilled here. So it's nice to be wearing one hat, right? Like, that's what I do now is just coach. And I really enjoy that. For a while, it was tough because I was trying to balance a lot of other things, you know, like still competing, helping with the show, building programs and courses there, and then like a little bit of coaching on the side. And like my passion at that time was I really wanted to get into coaching more. And now like there's more of it than I can handle, so it's pretty awesome. It's amazing too, just because being around, you know, 8 other people that are doing the same thing like for a living. If you ever run into trouble or need help, like everyone here, like in whatever field it is, like they've all had experience in it, so it's really cool to be able to bounce off ideas off of anyone.
Yeah, and you also hadn't got back into fully competing yet. I don't think, had you competed at regionals yet, Raf? No.
No, you would think about going back.
Yeah. So I took like 2 years off. I did team last year, and then I just did team again this year at regionals.
Yeah. And how has that, because you were saying that the drive was just coming back.
Yeah.
Because for a while, anytime your heart rate got up, you're like, nah, I'm not into this.
Yeah, there's a couple of years where I definitely got away from like any challenge in that way.
Yeah.
But like the hunger came back, and it was definitely there last year and this year, and it was a lot of fun. And I think I just learned more about how to balance it. At the time, like just getting into coaching, I wasn't good enough with my time yet, and handling stress and like learning how to deal with people and not let that affect me so much so that it eats into my training. I just got better at it, you know, over the last few years.
Did you put like a strict schedule together over the time? Because that actually was one thing I wanted to ask you guys about, was how you manage being an online coach, because obviously there's a due date for your design, but it can be like 1 a.m. if you want it to, right?
Yeah.
If you really fall behind on things. So maybe you can answer it first, Mike. How do you manage that? And then Brannen, maybe how do you manage it as well?
Yeah.
Because how many athletes you got?
25.
Yeah, it's a lot of programs.
Yeah, but I mean, wait till you get this guy. Like, I learned so much from them on how they actually structure and manage their time, but I just don't handle capacity the same way as some other people. So I put a restriction on that because I just run around crazy, and it's really tough for me. I'm still like, I've written programs now for like 5 years, but just now getting into that level of capacity with it. So I'm still learning and trying to just make sure I don't bite off more than I can chew. I would say it started with being extremely structured for a while. Like if you go and look at my calendar, it was like I had every hour of the day blocked off. And in theory, it sounded like a great idea because it was like, cool, like I just follow this and I'll get everything done. And, you know, my week is planned out. And it turned into a nightmare after a while because you just don't have any breathing room, right. You know? So I actually got better and more comfortable with having less structure in my schedule and just having more focused days, right? Like Monday being like a design only day, Tuesday right. being like a decompressed day where I can train a little more and I can answer emails and do some creative work. Wednesday back to like a heavy design day. Really just kind of being smarter and listening more to my mind as well. Like every day you wake up and like if you have all this structure and all these designs set in place, but your brain is like smoked from the day before, like, man, it's painful to try and drudge through that. Your work is really slow. So just being better about acknowledging that and being okay with changing the schedule.
And how much of the day is like coaching? Because obviously writing designs is one thing, but then like coaching the athletes, like how does that occur? Like do you call them?
Man,
do you just write back to them? Or?
Honestly, for me, I think more of the time is spent coaching and responding and giving feedback than actually writing the designs. Like all that time and work that I put into doing that makes writing the designs easier and faster. So like if I open a design and I'm not like in touch with what's going on with this client or how they're progressing, it just slows down the design process because I don't have the answers I need. Or like I need to know like how they're feeling, what's going on, and the only way to get those kind of answers is time and putting time into that athlete, whether it's, you know, hounding them to stay on top of their results or doing more frequent calls and staying on top of making sure they're continuously motivated with their goals. I learned a lot about that with if I don't put the right amount of time in, especially like asking the right questions, it makes the writing the design process just 10 times harder.
Do you feel like you got better at asking questions to your athletes because you were a podcast host and like it was?
Yeah, I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, I would think so. Just I got better at like extracting information from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty important.
Yep. I think what you said, asking the right questions though, is something I've definitely gotten better at over the years. Just, you know, cleaning up your interview process, like in the front end and with your follow-ups.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like there's always questions that you'll ask in the beginning and then you realize that they're useless.
Yeah.
Like over time. They don't.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
Don't
you start to cut the fat over time, for sure.
What would you say is some of the fatty parts that you cut? In an initial interview with someone, like maybe what were the questions you initially used to ask them, and now what have you cut out, and now what are the core things you want to know when like a new athlete comes to you?
I think in the beginning, the process is very similar, and then as I learn more as I go, I've gotten more comfortable with kind of freestyling it, right? So, like, the questions and demands of someone who wants to compete in the sport of CrossFit are just 10 times different than someone that just has general health and fitness goals. You know, like some people I need to develop a stronger relationship with and learn more about their personality than some who want to compete because they're machines. You know, like sometimes they're just totally different, and like I'm here to like provide the work for them to do, and like this is the goal they want, and feelings don't always matter. Right. Versus someone who's in general health and fitness, it's a little different. You know, like I'm not saying coddle, but it's just a different approach.
Yeah.
So there weren't any like specific questions there, but it's kind of broad.
Yeah, I think what he's talking about, or what I've done and kind of learned from Max and others that have been doing it longer than we have, is having like a flexible structure. So we have a structure or a template that we'll use when we're talking to a new client or doing a consult, but that is flexible based on the type of athlete that they are. And I think a lot of that, like the coaches here have always done a good job of building relationships and knowing what makes their athlete tick. Like what motivates them, and then kind of figuring out like really what their goals are. And then based off of those goals, we can kind of dive more into like, these are the questions that we have to ask to figure out how to get them to those goals. I think that's really important. And for me, one of the things I used to fail is like I would keep that same template on all of my initial consults, and it'd just be asking the same questions, right? And then at the end, you may get lucky and have all the answers that you need, and it's like, okay, I know how to write this design. But most of the time it'd be like, I didn't get to this, this, and this because I was just following this like structure that I have in place, as opposed to being more flexible and allowing kind of the conversation to go which way they want it to go, but we're still guiding it. So you know, they're kind of like, they're the student driver, and we're the person that has the other wheel, and we can take over whenever we need to.
Right.
Yeah.
How often would you say, and this is something because I obviously had a call with Kyle initially, how often would you say the call is like a sales call as well? I know you maybe don't think about it that way, but like when I was initially being interviewed with Kyle, like I wasn't necessarily going to be like, okay, I'm starting with you 100%. There was a very specific moment in there where he said something like, oh, that's why you haven't actually progressed, is because like you haven't introduced banded work to your pressing. He's like, and what I would actually do is this, this, and this. I don't know if he realized it at the time, but that was actually sort of like closing the sale for me. Like, here's your issue. Here's like what you did in the past and didn't get there.
Yeah.
Here's what you need to do now and what I would give you to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
And then I was sold. Then I was like, whatever you say next, I don't really care. Like, how do I sign up, right? Or is it like they're basically sold going into it because, you know, they love training think tank? It's like, how do you think about it like that? Do you manage it that way?
That's interesting. I think both, because you could have been in a position to accept that information from Kyle, and had someone else told you that, right? Like someone else said like, well, I know that you need more banded work. You may have been like, yeah, I know that. But I think maybe like Kyle was in a position that you trusted the brand he was coming from, so that it probably helped you accept that information more, and you bought in right away. I just finished reading a few months ago The Gift of Injury by Stu McGill. And
is that the one with the powerlifter?
Yeah, Brian Carroll.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool narrative about his healing process with Stu McGill.
Okay.
Him getting back on the competition floor. And one of the most interesting thoughts in the book to me was the initial conversation between Brian Carroll and Stu McGill. Brian had gone and seen all these people, all these experts, all these doctors, and he flies up to see Stu McGill to have him run through an assessment. And like he's having him doing like really basic shit, like, you know, hinging pattern, like PVC deadlifts, like watching him do really basic stuff. He's sitting in a chair and they're having a conversation, and he's like, Brian, look at your posture. You're not sitting straight. You're slouching. And Brian said he went home with like all these aha moments. And I'm like, Stu just told him like basic shit. Like you're slouching in your chair. You're not hinging correctly, to like a world level powerlifter. Now, if any Joe off the street had said that to Brian Carroll, he'd be like, well, duh, you know, like, you're not helping. So I think it comes down to also
who's sending the message.
Positioning. Yeah, positioning as the coach, and what's the information they're telling them, and are you ready to kind of like hear it from someone that you trust?
Yeah. I think when I started, I probably did have like a little sales pitch because we were trying to grow the business. Now the sales pitch is like, you know, here are the results I'm going to give you. Like, I don't think there's much of it other than let's go through 6 months and see what happens, you know, and then you be the, you know, you make the call on if you're getting better. But, you know, for me, again, it's like starting those conversations with getting to know the person and then kind of figuring out how we can communicate and collaborate on their design. And I think once people see that we care, that matters more for most people than like giving them all the answers, because the reality too is like we're never going to be a company that claims to have all the answers, because even if we did, those things always are changing. And I'm sure that that's something probably that Kyle and Evan talked about a little bit with you guys as they revamp the course and go through that whole new process.
Fourth edition.
Yeah, the 15th edition of that, right?
Oh, the movement course?
Of all of them.
All of them.
Courses continue to change, but the reason is because we want to give a good product, and we also want to have the most up-to-date information. And as we all know, like that always is changing. And, you know, a lot of what's out there is just outdated now. So, you know, it's not to say like, hey, these are the right answers or banded work's the only way to go, but saying like, hey, if you haven't tried this, let's play around with some stuff. And, you know, for Kyle, I know he always does it, and I'm sure he's told you this, like I'm always trying to find new things to help you with. And I think that's like a security too, knowing that he's not going to give you the same stuff over and over again. He's always trying to learn. So the coach that you had 2 years ago isn't the same coach you have now, because he's growing his knowledge base as you're growing or progressing in your training.
That's right. Yeah.
I think sometimes the mindset of trying of what you say to the client to try and close the deal, and I'm not saying that that's what you were saying, like how you approach it every time when you speak to a client, but I think if you can kind of get into trouble if you go into it with that mindset sometimes, because you have to honestly ask yourself, like, am I making this decision based off trying to keep the business going, or like me getting a new client, or honestly what's better for them, you know? And sometimes that honesty might lose you a client, but in a year down the line, or whoever they talk to, like it's the right decision because you were just straight up with them and been like, look, man, like, you know, you're having trouble with your strength because you're just doing too many freaking metcons. It has nothing to do with what you're not doing in your strength work. And like, if I'm going to coach you, like I'm not going to give you that. That may not be what they want to hear, but that honesty goes a long way.
And I've lost quite a few clients because of that. Or someone that signs up and says they're going to come on, we do an assessment, and then they see what their training is going to look like. And I have those real conversations. I've told, probably 20 or 30 people over the last 3 years, like, I think you're doing it wrong, and here's why you're not progressing. This is the way that I'm going to start you, and if you don't like it, then we just don't work together. And again, like that's not me being mean or rude to them, and I try to express that. It's me saying, I'm trying to give you the best option for yourself to progress.
Right. Do you think it's just athletes have proven to themselves they've gotten to a certain point, be it like a really good point, maybe one spot from qualifying to the games, and they're like, well, obviously what I've been programming for myself works, but they actually do need something different to take them to the next level. They just haven't realized it. You know, it's almost like the saying, like, what got you here will, like, won't be the thing that gets you to the next place. But they don't want to hear it because they think they have the winning formula. But now we actually need a new formula from go 6 to podium.
Yeah. I mean, most people, you know, like that old saying of like, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. I think that for the most part works for a lot of people because they're like, it has gotten me here. So as a coach, obviously, we're looking at all the things maybe they haven't done that could boost them to that next spot. But the reality is we can't guarantee them a spot at the games if we change everything or keep it the same. And they can't either. So that's one of the conversations that you have to have with somebody. But, you know, it's tough when you have someone that's kind of done it the same way and has seen a lot of successes in the sport. But one of the conversations that I have with them is the sport's still so young that training protocols haven't mattered as much as they will. And so even now, you know, I think I actually said this to you guys last time we talked like 2 years ago, right? Like in 10 years, there are going to be 50 Matt Frasers in the sport as far as like their physiological markers, or at least I assume so. If there's more money in the sport, if they legitimize a little bit more, if we have paid judges, if another big sponsor comes in, and then all of a sudden it actually becomes a professional sport.
Equipment in Latin America.
Well, I mean,
the essentials.
I'm just saying.
Body types will rule out. You'll start getting specific to the demands of the movements. And
right. And I don't mean that in a negative way towards CrossFit. I'm just saying as they every sport goes through this, right? They have to legitimize, pay people to actually run the sport and those kind of things. And once they do that, if there's millions of dollars on the line, then more athletes that are naturally gifted will come into the sport. And when that happens, if there's 50 Matt Frasers, and I just use him obviously because he's the best in the sport right now, right? We look at 50 Matt Frasers, then training protocols really do matter, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to depend on what they're doing, how they're peaking, how they're tapering, all those kind of things, right? Right now, there's only so many guys that can be competitive, and the training protocols don't matter as much as they will. So that's one of the things that I tell people is like, as you get along in the sport, or if your goal is to, you're 30 and you want to be a 35 Masters, maybe in 5 years those things will matter even more and more. So finding something that's going to keep you healthy long term and allow you to be able to prepare when it's time is going to matter more then.
How have you guys seen the sport or the attitude of the sport within just the general public change in America? Because in Australia it's more or less unchanged, but I feel like the interest is dying off a little bit.
You mean like in terms of popularity, like people that don't do the sport or don't CrossFit?
Like we used to get a lot of people that would come in and be like, I'm like ready to go to the games, I want to go to regionals, blah 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 blah, and it could just be our gym or the gyms around us, but it's definitely less exciting and people are less interested than what they used to be. Is that something that you've noticed, especially because you're at the heart of it, training think tank, you're obviously attracting a lot of regionals athletes? What have you guys seen?
I think interest in wanting to compete in the sport is still climbing. I have more talented people showing up now to want to compete, and they're further along in their training life or their training in their training age than years past. So like to me, that's growth. In terms of like popularity outside of it, for even people that don't step into a CrossFit gym, like I think it's still growing here. Almost everyone now knows what it is.
Right.
If you walk up, they may not know like the specifics, but you're like, CrossFit, and they're like, oh yeah, 3 years ago, like they had no idea.
Right.
It's definitely grown. I mean, I think, just by the numbers on our business, it's grown. We have more inquiries than ever. I do think you may start to see maybe a little bit of a fall off in people wanting to say that, or people that are going to say they want to make the games because they realize that they can't.
Right.
So it's more of like a realism thing of like, when we're out there watching Noah train or Travis train, I'm like, man, it's a different level.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a completely different level than even other regional athletes.
Yeah.
And so I think people see that and they're like, well, I know I can't do that, but that doesn't mean that the base, which really, the kind of the foundation of CrossFit are all the other people that are in the box, or whatever you want to call it. And so I think that continues to grow. You see as far as the open, the percentages of signups continue to grow at a crazy rate. I was shocked to see how many people signed up this year.
What was it this year compared to last year?
Over 500,000, right?
No way.
Yeah,
Wasn't it under 200,000 last year, or under 300,000?
It was 340, but in 2014 it was 240, I think. We have the numbers. We keep the numbers on a sheet, so I have those somewhere. But
I didn't know that.
I think it's mostly in like South America and stuff,
yeah,
right?
I mean, it's growing.
Like Asia.
So I don't know what the numbers are per country or whatever if you divided those up. But, I mean, it's obviously continuing to grow, and it's a great thing. I mean, I think that the sport, not the sport, but the system has allowed a lot of people to get into gyms that otherwise wouldn't be, because it's a different community, and the coaches that are doing it correctly at gyms across the U.S. and across the world are helping those people a lot. And so I think we just need to separate the sport and like the actual like fitness model, just because those are two different training styles, and obviously people have to understand like it takes a special person to make the games now.
Right. How much do you think the stuff that you guys do here, so like just for people who don't know, like Training Think Tank HQ is like in CrossFit Passion, and CrossFit Passion is like it's original style CrossFit. It's like one thing one thing for the day, and then it's like everyone just like throws down, mad community vibes, and just hitting an awesome workout. At our gym, it's more like if you went to Training Think Tank, people kind of have some individual extras. Yeah. People do accessory work, they do strength work, they do progressions, that sort of thing. How, like if you had a gym with the general population, what do you think you would lean more towards, and why?
Yeah, so I actually did have a gym. I co-owned a gym in Boca Raton for 2 years before I moved up here. And we did a couple different classes. And so the main CrossFit class, what that looked like was, I was writing it. So I'd write a template or a block that would be like 6 weeks long or whatever. It's just an example. And we'd have a couple goals for those blocks on each day. And we would write progressions based on that. But we'd also have days where we just do like classic CrossFit Metcons and have people, get together on teams or whatever to have fun, because I think that there's probably a good system that we can put in place to help people get more healthy than just doing like random CrossFit every day. But people like that, and it is a business still. So for us, we had more people come in not because of the progressions or saying, "Oh man, I got really healthy on this," but because it's like, "Hey, there's 30 people throwing down on a Saturday in there, and it's so much fun." And that's when we got people in. So we balanced it. Obviously, I tried to be as smart as I could with when I wrote Metcons, giving good scales and having an idea of like, well, if this person comes in and they can't do these things, this is what I'm going to recommend. And what I would do is have, we had a giant whiteboard in there, and I would give all of the scales on the board already, so there were no questions.
Right.
So it's like, if it's pull-ups, here are the 4 different scales based on the level that they were at. And the people that had been at our gym, they already knew like which level they were at, because we would talk about that when they came in and went through kind of like the first few weeks of learning like the movements. And so they would already know without asking, like, I'm level 2, so this is the workout I'm doing today.
Yeah, interesting. What about you, Mike?
I've never owned a gym. I've coached in several. I think yeah. Like one thing I've noticed is it depends on the community, on the members. Like honestly listening to what they want. I've seen some gyms where the majority of the members love structure and they like to see that they're getting better week to week, and they're not so concerned with chaos. And I've seen some gyms that like they don't really care to see if they're doing better. They just want to throw down with friends and hurt and get in and out and keep it short and sweet. And I don't think there's like a right model that can be spread across the nation. I think it's just listening to what the members want and figuring out like what do the majority of them want to do. Do they want chaos? Do they want structure? Do they want to see the progress? I know as a whole nobody wants to be hurt and in pain, so like that's like the common denominator there. But in terms of like how much structure and chaos, yeah, man, I mean, from what I've seen, I've seen some gyms try it and go so structured because they would try to show the athletes or the members like, look, we're going to get you better week to week, and they liked it for a little bit, but then they just lost. It just wasn't fun to them. Some people only have 30 to 60 minutes a day to come into the gym and throw down, and they want that to be a release, and sometimes like structure and feeling like you have to do something because that's the plan. This isn't a release for them.
Yeah, I like to be optimistic, so I'd like to think that, and we're a part of this, and I'm proud of that. But we're trying to educate gyms around the U.S. We put out these YouTube videos, and we're having new courses that are coming out, and we have courses that are already out. And so I'd like to think that gyms are getting better at programming, so even whichever route they go on, they're doing a better job of like making sure that they're not just crushing their clients just for fun. But there is a good balance there, and they have to run businesses. They have to get people through the door, and I understand that. But you should run a business in a way to take care of the people that you have under your net, so to speak.
Have you, so like coming back to what you just said about getting more popular and stuff, have you guys noticed anything significant in terms of inquiries and popularity for Training Think Tank? I mean, the biggest things would probably be, one, Chris putting out more content than anyone could consume, and then 2, Noah joining the Training Think Tank roster. Did you notice especially you, Brannen, you've been here for a while, right? Did you notice a shift in the amount of inquiries and the interest?
There's definitely been a huge shift, and that comes at different times of the year. Before I speak on that, I mean, what Chris has done is like insane. And I don't say that just to kind of like toot his horn because he's in here. I've told him this before, and the other coaches, like, he's invaluable. And maybe it's just because I have no creativity. Like if you ask me to make a video, I'd be like, oh God. But what he has done is like, I watch him and I'm just like, I mean, he made a normal story look amazing. And so he's definitely helped so much, and to think of like what's in the future is really cool because of how creative he is and how talented he is at putting things together and creating this narrative that really makes sense and then also speaks to the population that we're going after. So he's helped. Noah obviously is a huge name. I mean, everyone in CrossFit knows who he is. And so I think that just kind of having him around obviously boosts our visibility. But one of the things that we have always stood on is our success isn't dependent on our best athletes. Our success is dependent on creating a foundation of like continuing to improve, building relationships with our clients, and trying to better every single person in our organization. So yeah, it's great to say I have this many regional athletes, I have this many games athletes. It's a lot of fun to work with high level athletes, but I have almost more joy and success seeing the person that ran a 16-minute mile when they started just finishing Ironman 3 weeks ago. Like, it's just incredible to see that kind of improvement and to see their life change. So, obviously every coach is a little bit different in what their goals are for their clients. But for me, like, I really love seeing like the normal Joe off the couch come in and just say like, hey, I see what you guys are doing and I want to be a part of it. Yeah. I don't want to be a games athlete or a regional athlete. I just want to, like, here are some goals that I have. Can you get me better? And, like, getting them better in that regard.
Why do you think people like that opt in for, like, individualized programming when they could just go to a community gym and be like everyone else and have fun and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think some people probably see some of the videos and things we put out and realize, like, wow, that's pretty cool. I just want to try it. And we get some like that, and then they end up buying in to what we have just based on, like, seeing some early successes in their training progressions. I think that others have specific goals, and so they need specific training. So, like, the example I just gave was a true example. I had a guy that just finished his first Ironman. It was actually in April, so 6 weeks ago or whatever. But, a year and a half ago, when he said he wanted to do an Ironman, I was like, there's no way.
Right.
It's going to be impossible.
Right.
I didn't tell him that.
Good little coach I want.
I did tell him it was going to be extremely hard, and I don't know if he could finish in the 16 hours.
Right.
16
hours?
But I said, let's...
That's basically like the
15 hours, 59.
Yeah. But let's see what happens. Like, let's go after it. And he did a half about 14 months ago, and did well, but still was just slow on his times. And so he said,
hey, I just need 30 seconds of your time before we get to the end of this podcast. Have you ever struggled to training goal or don't even know what it is? We've created this for you. If you ever struggled to hit a back squat, get a muscle up, or finally make it to regionals, you can use this 100-day training journal to journal about your training morning and night to keep yourself on track through the ups and downs of training. And there's expert advice in there from Max Elhag of Training Think Tank, Travis Mayer, Brent Fikowski, Matt Fraser, all in there to help you achieve your 100-day training goal.
All right, April 24th is the next one, or 25th, whatever the date was, in Texas. I'm doing it. And we just went after it, and because he had those specific goals, he needed a coach. And, I've done quite a bit of work with some endurance athletes, but I've never worked with, like, an Ironman. And obviously he's not a high-level athlete in that regard. But it was a lot of fun and challenging for me I read probably 10 books and did a bunch of research trying to figure out what would be best for him. And I tried some things that would go against the grain in that community, and some of them worked, some of them didn't, but it was really educational for me. So that's one of the reasons why I say it's fun. But I know I'm not answering your question. The answer to that is, I think people that have specific goals want specific training.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think CrossFit does prepare you for anything? That was the whole
anything.
Gist. Any sport. That was the whole gist of it, right? Do CrossFit, be a better athlete. I don't know if that's really true. What do you think, Mike? Is that just good marketing, or do you feel like you could just jump in, the CrossFit Passion classes and then end up being, a pretty good soccer player or a better soccer player than what you were?
I think that's a huge, it depends, man. Absolutely, I think it could make, a large majority of people fitter. It just depends what their starting point is. Right. When I started CrossFit, I was nowhere near the shape I'm in now. And I'll use the example of, I used to play hockey. I played hockey for 12 years. When I started CrossFit, I didn't skate for like 2 years, and then one day I went back and played with an alumni game with a bunch of guys I used to play with, and I was like all over the place, like fast. Like I felt amazing. I was in way better shape than I ever was playing hockey. So like, by that comparison, yeah, absolutely. I think if you take someone who's super fit and you throw chaos at them and they have specific needs, like, it may not be as helpful. So, again, like, it really depends on where they're starting.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting just because we spoke to, what's his name? Trip Smith. And he was saying that something like a general thing like CrossFit will generally make athletes that are good at their sport or that need to compete in their sport worse. Like, they need to have something very specific. They need to have something that's like, looks like their sport, looks like the energy systems in their sport. I suppose that is a little bit different for someone who's coming off
unless
the couch.
They're really bad out of shape, right? Like, then any fitness training will work. Yeah.
I mean, that's I think people can't argue with that, right? I don't think anybody, or I would assume that most people higher up in CrossFit are arguing that, like, someone that has a specific, an NFL football player is not going to just become a better NFL football player because they do CrossFit.
Right.
But if they are out of shape or they want to have some fun or something like that one day a week. Like, it's not going to hurt their training. But at the same time, again, like if we look at the base foundation, it's helped. And so, I mean, I've been critical of all kinds of different styles in gyms that I've been to. And I think that there are some issues, but I also am the first to praise CrossFit for what the movement that they've created and the hundreds of thousands of people they've gotten off the couch to go and try something. Because, you know, the LA Fitness and the Lifetime or whatever, I don't know what kind of gyms you guys have over in Australia, but those are like
Fitness First.
Fitness First. Those weren't helping those types of people. So to have something change their lives is just incredible. I mean, and that's, I think, to be applauded. And so I would never speak negatively of them in that regard. But if you have a specific, you know, if you have a golfer and he comes in and, yeah, I say golf because I love golf, but like there's so much skill involved with the swing and rotational capacities. And if they're doing CrossFit, that really doesn't require much rotation, doesn't require a bunch of hand-eye coordination, they're not going to get better at their golf swing. That requires a coach that knows what he's doing to be able to help them with rotational power and coordination of segmenting their spine and hips and working on hand placement and all those kind of things that matter for that sport. So, you know, I mean, it can go a bunch of different ways.
I mean, is there even an argument or people comparing saying that, you know, high-level sport athletes should do CrossFit? It'll make them better at the sport?
Yeah, CrossFit is saying that.
I mean, you know, you had like the branches like CrossFit football, CrossFit endurance, and those aren't CrossFit. They're branches of it, right? Like they're specific, so you're like already getting a form of specificity in there to those sports. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
they also don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean, why?
Either of them. I don't know. Maybe because they just feel like CrossFit does make the good athlete better athlete. That's what they preach. Honestly, they took we couldn't remember his last name. We think it was like Guerrero, like the ghost Guerrero, that boxer, professional boxer, like 50-1 or something like that. And they were just like, yeah, he just does CrossFit at a CrossFit gym and he's doing thrusters and wall balls and stuff like that. And like, he's going to win this fight because of CrossFit. Like, he's a better athlete now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good to say. I don't know if that's accurate.
I mean, if it worked, it worked. I don't like blanket statements, you know, like try it, see if it works. I mean, I just think it just depends, man. It's like I don't know. It's kind of a weird argument to me.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting. But anyway, we'll shift. I want to ask you guys a question about what it's like to work for Max and be under Max. Maybe you can kick this off because you've worked with him for longer. Yeah. So Brannen, how have you seen him change over time? Because even between the podcasts that we have with him, we were talking about this the other day, we feel like he's changed a lot on what he, especially from like a business standpoint, what he feels is like he wants to do and what's acceptable and that sort of thing, and what he believes works. And like even bringing on someone like Chris is probably a big shift to where he was like two and a half years ago when we first spoke to him. Yeah,
I think that actually speaks volumes to who he is and how wise he is when it comes to business. You know, again, it comes down to that, like, you have to be flexible. If you're stuck in a dogma, then you end up just peaking out at some level in business or in training or in whatever you're doing. And so he's done a good job of kind of being flexible and learning new things and continuing to change his mind based on the new knowledge that he has. So, and that's one of the reasons that, like, I love him to death and I respect him more than anybody. I owe Max a lot. I mean, he took a risk on me and said, you know, move up to Atlanta and work for me. And I bought into that, and, you know, he never knew what was going to happen. Like, I could have ruined everything up here, right? So I owe him, you know, I mean, the life that I'm living right now, and so I again respect him more than anybody. But the cool thing with him is that he's always okay with being challenged, and he's not just the boss that's like, this is the way we're going to do it. You know, that's the whole idea of the think tank. And so he's brought all these coaches in, and we all think completely differently. I mean, we follow same models. It's a motley crew, training. Man. Yeah. But, you know, the way that I think, the way that Mike thinks, the way that, you know, Becky or Mia or Adam or, you know, we're all so different. But we can sit down and challenge each other and have new ideas. And Max is like saying, I want to be challenged. You know, let's figure out the best way forward for our business. And that's pretty special, because I don't think many people say they do that or they can do that, but most bosses can't do that because of ego and other things that drive them. And so I think it's really cool that he's willing to do that. And then the other thing too is, like, he's made decisions for the business thinking about the people that he cares about most too. And it's really cool to see him help see him
Couldn't help
go
it.
out on a limb for people like me or for Mike,
Yeah.
for Chris. Kyle, moved here with his family. Adam moved here with his family and said, like, hey, I'm going to make sure that I support you guys.
Yeah.
And so, I know that maybe this is a little overly emotional, but I just, like, it's really cool to see him be willing to do that and continue to fight for us each day.
Is that most represented by him trying to give you as many clients as quickly as possible? Is that probably one of the quickest ways?
No, I think he actually is the opposite. He wants us to be he cares about our own well-being and then also the product that we're putting out there. So he's always been the one, like, don't take on too many clients. Like,
right.
Here's the limit, because I want you to, one, make sure that you're not getting overwhelmed, and two, make sure that we're able to properly, like, work with the client and give them a good product first. And then once we're comfortable, all right, you can take on a few more, But, like, even still now, none of us are overloaded with clients. One of the first questions you asked was about, like, how do you deal? And I never talked about that, but, like, one of the first things that we talked about is, like, not overloading, because in the past Max was probably overloaded with clients and not able to do what he wanted to be able to do with the clients that he had.
Yeah.
And so we keep caps. I have a cap on how many clients that I keep.
What are you at now?
Sure 41.
Oh, wow.
And but I won't go over that. It's usually 40, and I had a regional athlete that came back on right before regionals because he had some issues over the Christmas time with family and things. So I filled a spot, and then someone, he came back on. But that is a perfect number for me to be able to give good time to each of my clients. But I would, even though that, I may have 10 or 15 on a wait list right now, I won't take those people on, not because I don't care about helping others, but it's because the people that I do have, I want to invest time into and make sure. And Mike was talking about it. I mean, it's already with 25, it's challenging, right? Like, it's hard to find time in the day. And so I want to make sure that I have blocks of time for each client throughout the week. So he is in Max, has always encouraged us to focus on the clients that we have. And he's not worried about, you need to take on as many clients as you can so the business has more revenue. Like, that's never been his goal.
Right.
How does it work with, like, someone comes and they want to get a coach? Is there, like, a hierarchy of coaches? Are you like, you start here and then you work your way down? Or is it like people come specifically for a coach? Imagine people must have, like, a clear idea in their head, like, I want this guy.
Yeah, now with the media, I think people actually kind of know based on who they see, who they want. I think, just because I've had people, like, ask for me, or I know people that are like, no, I don't want him. I want, whatever, Kyle Ruth, or they see Mike and they're like, I want Mike.
It doesn't happen. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, right.
Does it happen based on, like, I want to be jacked? I want Mike. Or, like, I
that's probably how I do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I would think.
I want to be. Who's the strongest guy? Yeah, I want to be the coach.
You said you liked that chess protocol, man.
I did. That's true. That's true. What's your max reps at 225 on the bench?
Like the combine test?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I haven't done it in like 3 or 4 years.
Not much.
I wasn't a football player.
I know.
But
you're.
I don't know. Maybe like I'm not a strong bench presser. Overhead is a little different.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like 15.
People pay you for coaching.
Gotta go with Brannen.
Brannen could do like 20 something. He was trained at combine.
I was telling them the story.
We'll build it back up. Let me know when you get to 26.
Yeah,
we'll talk.
I honestly, when I did it when I was telling you that I did 5x5 right before because of Linda coming out, it's like I just want to see where I'm at. I thought about doing 25 in the combine test and thinking there's no way I will ever get back to that because I won't put the time into doing bench press.
Yeah.
And I was so sore the next day just doing 5x5.
It's a good sore though. Getting your chest sore is like the best sore.
It was awesome watching some of the ex-football players do Linda. They were like licking their lips at it.
Yeah, James.
My client James.
Oh my goodness.
When they announced bench press, before we knew what Linda was, I wrote in his design. I was like, all right, go Bill, do a tough single, nothing crazy. Just want to see where you're at, so we can get some like numbers and see where he's, where his 1RM is currently. He's like 375, felt pretty good. We never bench press. Never bench press. And he's just that strong still at it because he just did it for 15 years.
And watching him do it, like the other stuff, he started slowing a little bit, but when he got to the bench, it looked like it was just a barbell.
Fast.
I'm like, how?
Yeah,
it was really impressive.
Him and like Nick Block, like they're just moving through it. Yeah.
375 is like 170, right?
Yeah. It's almost like sport specific for like football players.
It's very
the bench press, right?
I mean, their career depends on it sometimes, right? Like the numbers you hit at the combine, is it still the same way?
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar. There's a lot of focus that goes in. There are different numbers for different positions, but the tests that they do, matter, and a lot of times, someone may, if they get another, 10th of a second on their 40 or their, some of their shuttle runs, it may add $1 million to their signing bonus.
Yeah.
Which, it's
That's
a crazy number to think about. Or, 10 spots up in the first round or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Do you guys go back and look at like all the combine material on like how to smash the test for Linda? There must be heaps of stuff, right, on how to get the most out of the 225 bench press.
Yeah, I did a lot of work with combine athletes in a previous life when I lived down in Florida before I moved up here. So I used some of that with the athletes that I had training for regionals. But the reality is like, in 3 weeks, there's very little that you can change. Maybe we improve their times by 30 or 45 seconds on that workout overall. A lot of it, came down to just like they did it right after triple threes. I mean, literally right after. What was the break time? I mean,
it was pretty short.
Yeah.
And they were zapped, man.
Minutes.
Like, everyone underestimated how much that run just tanked your CNS.
Right.
Everyone just looked slower and weaker with the barbell.
And then, they're obviously you're combining that with other things. So you got to keep in mind, like, even though you may not think it, when you're doing squat cleans and then coming over and doing a deadlift and then going back to the bench press, that affects it. So maybe we saw a little bit of improvement, but I try to use some protocols and they just, it's hard.
I think the approach I took was it was different for certain athletes. Like, so someone like James, who he didn't need any tension to move the barbell fast, right? Like, he could lay there and his body could just be floppy. He's strong enough to just rep it out. So, like, for him, it was like, I need your body to relax. Like, that's where you got to get air in, because you got to do better on the deadlifts and the cleans. Versus, one of my female athletes who, like, would struggle with the bench press, as the majority of the field did. Like, they need to drive tension. They need to be really strong with it. They got to have the glutes engaged, like everything. So the approach was, like, really different.
Did he win that workout?
No, he got fourth. But he was like 13 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Still pretty good.
There were some fast guys in Central.
Central times were pretty fast.
And Frazier, I mean, he was in. So that's whatever. What did he get? 12:30, 12:35.
I don't know. I think he was around 13 or high 12s.
Okay. It was really.
He won it though, right?
He did win it. Yeah.
I think he set the world record, the event record.
No. This the European guy had that.
Oh, that's right. He was the one that was 12:30.
Yeah.
The Russian guy.
He posted the clean world record, right?
The Russian guy.
No, I don't think he was the Russian. That was the Romanov guy, or not the guy who won. Andrei Gannon or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Andre.
He flew through.
That's so fast, impressive, especially being like week 1 too. Like generally, you see the scores get a little bit better just having a little more time to prep. So like, I'm just so impressed when someone sets an event record that doesn't get knocked down on week 1.
Yeah, well,
awesome.
Those were just great movements for him, obviously, but he's just really, really good.
Yeah, super fit.
Impressive.
What did you guys think of the regionals workouts this year? Like, what were your first thoughts, and then how they played out over the weeks and coaching your athletes through them? Like, how did your opinion change with them?
I loved it. I really did. My athletes were healthy. They got through it this year. The volume didn't seem ridiculous. It seemed like just way less volume than past years, especially on the gymnastics side.
Definitely was.
I think maybe the body type, I mean, obviously, like, the top 1, 2, 3 people are going to be the same, just based on fitness level. But the 4th and 5th qualifying spot might be a different body type than what it would have qualified last year. I think you could be bigger and a little more powerful this year.
We noticed that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I like the events. I thought they were very different and very well-rounded, where the year before, I thought a lot of the tests were very similar.
Yeah, a lot of gymnastics heavy tests.
Like the ring dip, dumbbell, snatch, and then the muscle-up, dumbbell overhead squat. You saw the same people do the same result on that.
Yeah.
So I just liked how different every event was this year.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say I agree. I thought a better set of testing than in previous years. But the reality, and this is what I tell all of my regional athletes, it doesn't matter what comes out. You just got to be good at it. And so that's how CrossFit's always going to be. You don't know what's going to come out. It could be very biased. They do that on purpose. Cashman's talked about that in the past. Hey, no barbells. We're going to do a bunch of ring stuff and dumbbells and see how good you guys are. So you have to be good at that. Or, if it's a bunch of heavy barbell stuff, even if you're small, you have to be good at that. There just can't be any excuses. Can it be frustrating for an athlete that has trained really hard to get better at something and then that doesn't come out? Sure. But that's just the nature of this. It's one of the few sports that you don't know exactly what's coming out each time. And so that's just part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sport you chose to compete in, and if you blame the test, it doesn't make you any better. Like, it's not going to fix anything.
I think it actually makes you worse.
It does.
You become psychologically weak.
Yeah, exactly right.
And so then it's all about the test. And if something comes out that you're not confident in, you just become like complacent in it. Whatever, I'm not going to do well in that one. And then you don't ever give yourself the opportunity to do well or at least fight for a spot. And that's just, especially if you want to be a competitor, like, the best in the world aren't looking at it and like, I can't beat this team, or I'm not going to do well on this, event or whatever. So
yeah, when the attitude is that you're excited for all of them, like, you're just going to perform better.
Yeah.
If you're constantly like, oh, I just got to get through this bullshit one, like that's just a bad attitude and something you'll never get better at.
For sure.
So, how did it feel to come sixth twice?
I
had to ask it eventually.
Yeah.
We came sixth last year, and we had the expectation of going.
Yeah.
Maybe that, and I remember when we spoke to you guys last year, wasn't the expectation to come sixth. It was just like, let's go in there, it's our first year, let's have fun.
Yeah.
What was your expectation and intention this year going into it? Because you guys did well in the Open, right?
Yeah.
Going into it?
Yeah,
so,
I think we were second in the region.
Okay.
And one of the top scores in the world.
So what was the expectation, intention going in, and then, like, how did it all play out?
This will be an interesting conversation because Brannen pretty much coached this, Brannen and Adam. Yeah. So I'm curious to hear his perspective too. But from an athlete perspective, it was very, very painful this year to deal with. Last year, like you said, we just formed a team. We went in with no expectations, go in, compete, and just have a great time, and we did really well. I would say, like, realistically, we got seventh. There was a team that had a girl that got injured that was winning all weekend, so that was kind of like, an extra spot. Having known that we could be that good if we, even regardless of talent, just all the people that help here and putting together, like, awesome teamwork and strategy, that we could be that competitive. We went we upped it a notch this year and went into it with the expectation to compete and win. And being that close again, even though we executed as we felt like to the best of our ability, was just really painful because we were in it all weekend, and at the end it just, we just weren't good enough on day 3. So I'm happy with it because of the change in format. Like, we knew when it goes down to 4 people that it's going to be more talent based. You just can't hide athletes on a team of 4 versus a team of 6.
Yeah.
So it just makes it more competitive. This year we knew that more people were competing in the region. Last year, I think there were just less teams that had competed that year based on years past and athletes that we know. I mean, I've lived around here for a long time, and, like, I know all the athletes. And when I knew who had started forming teams, I knew there was just going to be more competition. So, I mean, it sucks. Our expectation was to go. We did not complete it. But there was a lot of positives from that weekend. Like, I learned so much more about competing. I don't feel that we made any, like, drastic mistakes. Like, I walk away from the weekend honestly feeling like, I mean, we PR'd our scores after testing the events in almost every single workout.
Oh, wow.
It sucks to swallow that we were that close, but honestly, like, we literally did everything we could, and it just wasn't good enough. So, which sucks to admit and swallow, but you kind of have to sometimes.
What were you placed going into the last workout?
We were in 5th place.
Right.
Basically, like, teams 2nd through 6th were, like, I don't know. Like,
all within about 14 points.
Yeah.
14 points.
I mean, it was just a crapshoot, and it came down to I don't like to make excuses. We could have just lunged faster and been okay, but we had a lot of no reps on the handstand push-ups, which set us behind a little bit.
Yeah.
Had we, so we had a chance to come back and stay within the team next to us that we needed to beat to solidify it, and they just outlunged us. So it was like a really dramatic ending. It was more painful this year because, we just honestly believed we could have done it, and last year, like, you weren't expecting it.
Yeah. Did you have any? You didn't have anything like the shoulder. I know your shoulder.
I tore my lat last year.
That's right.
I felt amazing this year.
Right.
Again, I think a lot of it. I mean, I was better prepared last year. I just started competing again, so my body just was still, like, kind of getting used to going that fast and dealing with the intensity.
Right.
But this year, like, I think with it being good volume and just being more prepared with a year of training volume, I was just healthier. Like that. At the end of the day, like, missing the games by a spot. This is on a personal level. I'm not speaking for the other teammates, but missing the games by a spot while I'm coaching more than I ever have, and still being able to compete and walking away healthy is, like, a huge win in my case. Like, I'm very happy with that, and I'm super grateful to have still been that competitive when I wasn't even expecting to have been competing at this point in my life anymore.
Right.
So,
how do you feel about it now going into next year?
Still deciding. I think part of it is, like, I feel incomplete because I know, like, damn, like, we could do it.
Yeah.
Like, we can 100% do it, but I think I'm ready to move on and coach more.
Yeah. I think it's always the hardest year to come back from, where your intention is, like, to go and everything is like, I'm going to make it. We're going to make it. Like, it's all, and trading's going well.
Yeah.
Competing's going well. And then you, like, miss out and you're so close. It's like, how do I do that better? because it's like now it's just like a fractional. You're kind of like throwing all your chips in. You're like, this is it. Like,
I mean,
going for it. You know?
We did that this year. You know, we put a lot of time into it, and it was really hard. Like, I was at the Central Regional the weekend before coaching, and like, if I want to be honest and give the best to my clients, like, I don't know if I can do that again. I don't know if I really want to.
To coach and then show up to compete on another weekend.
To get better than 6th place, it's going to require more.
Yeah.
Like, we got to work harder.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to do that again.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Which sounds like quitting, and it is in a sense, but it'll always feel like that because I'm a competitive person. But I just have to be grateful with, how competitive we were able to be this year.
Did you have to train more for the team of 6, or did you have to train more for the team of 4? Like individually, like working on what you had to work on, or was the volume relatively the same?
I had to manage my volume, like, because I'm a little older than some of the athletes on the team, and training volume just affects me differently. But I knew that going into it, with it cut down to 4, it was going to be more capacity based. So yeah, I had to train more to improve my engine.
Right.
And it was pretty tough, but did okay.
Yeah.
Did you feel like the weekend was harder in a team of 4, or like more like how it was individual?
Yeah, it was more capacity based.
As in, like, just fitness?
Yeah, like, with a team of 6, there's a lot of resting,
Yeah.
And, like, even the worm stuff, like, you can kind of hide. Like, some people can hide a little bit on a group of 6, like, working with the worm. When it's 4, like, man, it's just way harder.
Yeah.
The workouts are faster. Like, you're just more exposed.
The worm's heavier as well, right?
It was heavier. Yeah. It was tough, man.
Yeah.
But
I'm so glad I wasn't using that worm this year.
Yeah.
It was so bad the year before. Yeah. I think because I'm the fucking tent peg. The tent pole on the worm. I'm taking like 3 times the weight. Yeah. But yeah.
Tell them your airport story.
Oh man. Oh, this is so bad. This is so funny. The morning after, right? We're all at the airport flying home, getting ready to fly home, and I'm wearing like the Atlantic regional shirt, and this couple comes up to me, older couple, and the lady's like, "Oh, did you do the CrossFit games this weekend?" I was like, "Yeah, we did regional." She's like, "Oh, how'd it go?" It's like, "Oh, we got 6th. We missed qualifying by a spot." And she goes, "Why?" And I was like, "Fuck, I don't know. We're not good enough. Like, I don't know. Like, damn, what a deep question." And her husband was like, "Honey, no, they did their best. They just walked off quietly and like sat at the other end of the airport, even though they're on the same flight as us."
Oh,
she was, I know.
Why?
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know. I guess we're not good enough. Like,
Why?
Yeah.
That's the best. All right, Coach. How was
dagger in the heart?
Yeah, right.
how was it from a coaching perspective? You were supposed to be on the team, right? Or you were eligible for the team?
I put my scores in for the Open to help them out. I kind of have always been like pretty good at that kind of stuff, and so without having to train super hard, I can get like pretty competitive scores in most of the workouts. So basically, what I did was like, hey, I'm gonna sign up, do the Open, whatever scores I can help with, I'll go after those workouts, and then I'll be the alternate on the team in case one of you get hurt. But that with the understanding of like, you two, Mike and Joey, are the guys. We had our first child in April, or April 29th. So really think about it in June. So right before, and there was just a lot that was going on in my life, and so I didn't want. And with 41 clients, I wanted to commit on to them.
Of course.
So with all that being said, I basically was just there as the alternate athlete, but really the coach.
Right.
Which was an interesting dynamic. It's hard sometimes, like jumping in with them and doing some workouts to kind of help them out, but also coach. And I don't think I would do that in the future. If we have enough people to know that we can get good Open scores, then I won't sign up and let them do their own thing. But
you won't sign up at all.
And being patient with me, because I'm a coach at heart, and sometimes I won't shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Being patient with Mike. No, Mike was great. It hurts, right? Like that Sunday hurt a lot, and it hurt me being a coach, but it hurt me more seeing my friends out there on the floor being so disappointed. Like, I watched them come in from the lunge, and you could see the look. I think you guys all pretty much knew that it was over by the time you finished. It became really emotional for me, and I actually got up and walked out for a little bit and just kind of try to calm myself down and figure out what I was going to say to them, because I thought it was important that I hold my head up high and congratulate them for an excellent effort. But it's funny, we drove down, and so I was driving back with my wife and new baby, and my wife played college basketball at the University of Florida, so she played at a pretty high level, and she was telling a story about how she can remember missing a shot in a game and how she never thinks about it anymore. But when she does think about it, how bad it still hurts. And this was 10 years ago, you know? And she's like, I tell you that story and it still hurts. And so I say that.
Is that helping?
Right. I was like, thanks. But I also remember those stories, and I play football, and I can remember mistakes that I made or losses that we had to miss out on a conference championship in college, and those things still hurt me. And so the reason I say that is, one of the things that I told all of them afterwards is like, you have two options, right? Like, the reality is you're always, when you look back at it, going to hurt. It should be frustrating. If you're a competitor, you can always look back and say the what ifs. But there are two things that you can do now. One is either just be frustrated and upset, and then it'll just suck you dry to where you never get better at anything in life. Or you figure out the mistakes, move forward, and allow it to motivate you for, if it's training and getting better and making the games next year, or if it's for Mike being a coach, or if it's for Joey finding a job now and figuring out his life, or all the other people that were involved. And so just like with anything in life, if you miss out on something, you got to learn from it and kind of pick yourself back up and get better. And so that was the thing that we try to take away from it. Now with that said, like I said a second ago, it's still going to hurt, and it still does. We talk about it, and I'm still frustrated and upset by things. But we asked for two things throughout the weekend: give their best effort on each workout, and they did, and execute. And they did almost every single workout perfectly to the best of their execution. There were some things that came up through the weekend that really cost us. We had some weaknesses in rope climb. So event 5, even though that they executed well for where we're at, the rope climbs came back to bite us, and we ended up finishing relatively poorly.
9th place.
Compared to the field.
In that region, 9th place was bad.
Yeah.
It was just not good.
We were in 3rd place going into the day by 32 points. So we went from 3rd place ahead by 32 points to 6th place by the end of the day in 2 workouts, to give you an idea. So that 9th place was it's like finishing 25th or 28th as an individual, basically. And then in the last workout, again, it is what it is with no reps. But when we tested that workout in practice, my thought was we'd be around 5 minutes and set a world record in that event. We finished off the wall when we tested that every single time. Around for anywhere from 2:30 to 2:42, which would have been the fastest time off the wall for handstand push-ups in any region. And so
that was kipping, right?
Yeah.
144 kipping handstand push-ups.
We probably got 25 no reps.
Yeah. I counted 22 for sure.
Yeah.
It was probably over that. And again, there was a subjective standard this year, and that's just how it is.
What was the standard?
If your hips were bent too much, they gave a no rep. So
no way, serious.
Yeah, it wasn't lockout or anything or feet. It was overextension of the lower back and hips looking
I wouldn't get a single rep.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough to fit. Our girl was she would lock out, and then she would have to overextend and squeeze to get the rep. It was just tough. Yeah.
As coaches, we should have been more strict in practice.
Yeah.
And so I don't blame the judge. I don't blame the standard for that, and so I don't want it to come off that way.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
But that was what happened, and so we should have, me and Adam, we talked about it afterwards, we should have just gave him no rep after no rep and got it used to be in a perfect position. That would have helped, and then we would have got off the wall first, and we would have probably been first or second in the workout, and we would have been second overall. That's the difference in one workout.
Yeah.
But you can always go back and see the what ifs, and I say that, and I've told all of them that so that we can get better for next year and say that needs to be cleaned up. That was an error on the coach's part, not on the athlete's part, but as coaches, we need to make sure we hold them to a better standard than that. But, it also is one of those things, and, again, this is a touchy subject, but I think as a sport as a whole, the judging standard needs to continue to change. Every other major sport has paid judges that go through certifications, and they're then judged by a board based on their performance at their sport. So you think about NBA refs, they're paid, and then the best NBA refs go to the NBA finals.
Yeah.
And then they rotate throughout the playoffs, whatever. I know that's hard. You got to have a lot of money for that, but that's one of the next steps, and I'm excited. I don't mean this as a negative thing for CrossFit. I'm excited that they'll hopefully do that soon, because as you legitimize the standard and the judging process, you legitimize the sport more, and we can continue to say we do produce the most fit athletes in the world. And look at this legitimate standard that we're holding. You know, so I think that's got to be the next step, and it certainly will be. And then we can get a little bit better of a standard long term of like who is the best team and what are the good reps versus no reps. Right now, it's just really hard to tell. But I was really proud of them. You know, I hugged Mike afterwards. I like started crying. I felt like we're too like
sissy.
He's a macho man, and I tried to act tougher on Mike.
I cried hard the next morning. I didn't cry that night. The next morning though, I woke up and was like, ow, ow, like, what's wrong with me?
I looked at him and I'm just like, man, I told him, I don't know if you remember, I was like, man, I'm about to cry, dude.
We were emotional.
So, but I was proud of their effort. I think they did a great job, and you know, long term, it's going to make them all better. They're all hungry. You know, I talked to Joey yesterday, and he took a week and a half off, and he's fired up and ready to go, and he's an extreme talent. I mean, he executed so well all week, and I was really shocked. He's such a competitor.
How old is Joey?
22.
23.
23? Yeah. Just turned, and I mean, like he's beat Noah and Travis at workouts before. I mean, like he's a stud. He's got some holes in his game that we're going to improve this year, and we'll see what he wants to do. But and I mean, Mike says he wants to be a coach, but he's one of the best competitors that I've seen. So, you know, he may not have the capacity that he had when he was younger, but he still has that ability to go and compete at such a high level. And obviously, Bree and Brandy are both really high level competitors. So if they want to do it again, they'll be competitive.
Yep.
What was like the support like for you guys, the training think tank? Because you're unique in the way that you probably have a really big fan base outside of the gym that almost might support you. Like, put it this way, with the podcast, when we competed last year and we're standing on the line for the last workout, 4 or 5 different judges that were standing, volunteers that were standing on the sideline were like screaming for Creature. And I'm like, these aren't members. These are people that listen to the podcast. They're going absolutely nuts. Is that what, do you guys have any of that? Was TTT like the biggest, most supported gym there?
No.
Being down in South Florida, Seoul had a big following, and a couple of the other local gyms. Like there was a gym.
Hustle Hard had a huge following.
Yeah, Hustle Hard's right there.
Yeah.
Boynton Beach is literally 10 miles south of West Palm. So they had a fall. Obviously, one of their females got hurt. So there were some other groups there. But the cool thing is, like, we have a lot of clients that fly into these regionals just to watch. So I had a couple of mine that just came down just to watch, and they were very supportive. One of my guys that I actually never have met in person, like, he came down. It's like, oh, make sure on Friday that we hook up and meet. And like, as soon as we hooked up, he's like, all right, can you give me the name of everybody you have competing and all the other training things? I want to make sure I follow all of their events.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I mean, that's just like it. For him, like, he has no investment in any of them other than just being a part of the TTT brand, and so I thought that was really neat.
Lucas flew down.
Lucas flew down.
The no wasn't so resounding because we didn't have support. The other teams had a lot of support just because it was local. Like, we had a ton of people there to help and support. Like, we had 12 to 15 athletes competing at regionals that were very supportive and were around and rooting for us. A lot of passion members, CrossFit passion members, the gym that we share with here, were down there supporting. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Yeah. So what do you think what would you change going into team preparation? Actually, obviously, you just mentioned the standards thing, but I think obviously coaching a group of 4 athletes versus coaching a group of 6 athletes is very different. So